Well, good morning and welcome back to the program. Glad you're with us. Say good morning to Emil Lee, my partner in crime. St. Martin Sites News that matters to you. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Sock. Good morning, listeners. Great to be here again.
Well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. I've been waiting for this morning all since we got all this lined up because we all know that I have been a huge advocate of trying to figure out how to save money with the rising cost of electricity, and there are many tricks and tips and things that we can do. We've talked about solar a whole bunch, and then we read something. It was a couple weeks ago, I think, in the paper that Windward Islands Bank has now come up with a green financing
Correct.
program. And I thought, gee, this would be a great opportunity to bring WIB in and one of our solar experts, David Solomon of Solomon Solar Services, and Vasco Dahl, who is the general manager of business banking,
Business
correct?
banking, yes,
Good
correct.
morning, good morning, gentlemen. Welcome.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Thank you for having me.
So I think
there's so much.
indeed.
It's such a big topic.
So number one, the frustration with GB and the fact that the CEO or interim CEO is tendering his resignation. That frustration level
Tomorrow's his last day.
is just escalating. And indeed, we talk about solar all the time, and we all know how much you're saving on your bills. And so I thought indeed it'd be great for people to understand what's your entry point. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's too expensive." I heard the batteries are expensive. We live in a hurricane zone, so a lot of people just sort of don't really explore. And so, indeed, the idea of today's show was to talk to the experts, all three of you actually, about at what point should you start doing calculations as to whether solar makes sense for you.
Well, and I think the other thing that's important to realize too is there's lots of little things you can do before you make the solar investment to help drive the cost down. You know, look at the light bulbs that are in your ceiling. These are all LED. That makes you got to replace a light bulb, replace it with the slightly more expensive LED bulb, uses far less electricity. Need to replace the air conditioner? Well, replace it with an inverter version of air conditioning versus traditional air conditioning. All those little things
Refrigerators can also be inverter.
all make.
I've done construction projects and encourage people when they're redoing their roofs to put insulation under the roofs so it keeps your cooling costs down. So all those things are good paybacks, and you don't need changes in legislation and stuff like that. So
To make it all happen.
exactly.
So I'm wondering, what are some of the common objections that you hear from people about the concept of using solar? I mean, what are some of the things that people say? They say, "Oh, I can't do it because
Mhm.
X."
I think the thought out there is changing slowly. In the beginning, it was no, that can't work here, predominantly because of hurricanes. But yeah, that's easily prevented or helped by installing it correctly. So what we always do is we go for a very low profile install, as close to the surface of the roof as possible, and we use a whole lot of mounting points.
Mm.
And so that is a strong way to mount the panels so that they don't go anywhere during a hurricane.
So just for our listeners, when you say low profile, what you mean is you don't want the solar panels sort of sticking up and catching
Correct.
wind.
Correct.
So when the wind comes, it's as close to the surface as possible so the wind doesn't get underneath. That's
Exactly,
the idea,
exactly,
right?
because that creates uplift, and that's how you get your panels kind of going. And we also use a whole lot of mounting points. So
When you
uh,
say mounting points,
yeah, so
tell me what that means.
traditionally screws, yeah, screws. Some installers do long rail systems that have maybe, let's say, 6 screws per panel.
Mm-hmm.
We go overkill and we do at least 8. And yeah, with fasteners, brackets, sometimes up to 12.
Your hardware is stainless steel. I mean, because we live in a corrosive environment with the sea blast, everything rusts.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, stainless steel and or aluminum, and then you also have to watch out with a combination of the two. So all that is factored in and taken into consideration for the long run as well. That's important.
So, the quality installation's huge. I mean, I remember walking around after Irma and the amount of hurricane protection stuff that I found in the street. And they had mounted their hurricane stuff with plastic, like wall plugs, anchors,
Yeah.
and those just ripped right out. So they put the shutter, but the whole thing just ripped out because the installation wasn't good. So,
Yeah.
indeed, the quality of the installation is critical. That
You
makes
know,
a lot of
you'll
sense.
spend money, buying a good quality mount
Yeah.
to mount the panel is, I think, equally as important as
Mm.
the panel itself and the installation.
Yeah.
You have, especially because of where we live, right? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And what are some of the other what are the other objections that
That
we?
that's really like the biggest one, because people are starting to see the proof in the pudding. They're feeling it in their pockets heavily every month by GB, and so they're desperate for a different solution, something else to relieve the burden. And so I've had a customer. She set up a small apartment,
Mhm.
and she said, David, I want to go off grid on this apartment. I need to make that happen. And so we said, okay, her usage was very minimal, but she had a mission, and we made it happen in like 6 weeks and just had her up 10 panels, one battery, one inverter, and it was good. And it was good. And she's super happy. She's one of my biggest advocates now.
Do people have generators and solar? I mean, or do you
So
have to choose between the two?
So that's a great question. I always advise, because if you don't have a generator, don't get one. You can better invest that money in solar, because solar is an investment. From the time it starts working, it is saving you money. A generator is a backup system that only costs you money because you
Mhm.
have diesel to run it, etc. So definitely, if you don't have one, opt or at least take a good look at solar.
So you're saying take the money that you were thinking about putting into a generator
Yeah.
and better to just invest it in solar
Yeah.
because the solar acts as a backup when GB's out
Cor-
as well,
Correct. If it's with battery backup,
if it's with the
yes.
batteries.
Correct.
So
Okay.
think of it like this, right? The generator requires fuel
Mm-hmm.
to run.
Yeah.
The fuel, and that has a price,
And maintenance.
right? And maintenance, right?
Yeah.
That has a price. Um, with solar, the fuel, well, it's free. It's the sun.
Yeah. One thing I will say is, if a customer already has a generator, we incorporate it into the system as a third line of backup.
So you can have GB generator and solar
Absolutely.
to one house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of our customers actually have that. And so then the order is solar and battery. That's priority. If for whatever reason that runs dry, empty, then you go over to GB. If GB then tends to go, then you still have the generator. And that is in 90% of the cases fully automated. You don't have to do anything. It just works. And so that's, yeah.
So maybe to Vasco, I mean, obviously one of the big barriers has been cost, right? That people say, yeah, great, I get a 3-year, a 5-year payback, but I need to come up with all this money up front to invest. So I have to put the money up front, and then it takes me 3 or 5 years before I actually am saving money, right? So
Yep.
how does that work with you at the bank with your new program?
So we started a green loan campaign on World Environment Day on June 5th. And basically what the main plus points of this campaign is that we allow for up to 100% financing of 50,000 guilders to credit-worthy applicants. That's for both retail and businesses. If you purchase, for instance, a solar installation, you can get financing up to 10 years. But the green loan also takes consideration for equipment, high efficiency equipment, and also EVs, hybrids, up to 5 years. So it's basically encouraging people to buy or to go green.
So you mean if I wanted to change to inverter ACs, I could qualify for a loan?
Yes, you may. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So
Oh.
anything that saves you on electricity consumption, you would consider financing.
Yes. So it's
That's
high
brilliant.
efficiency equipment. Generally speaking, we're looking more at the solar aspect because
Mhm.
obviously you will save money easier and faster, and the ROIs, which David can talk about as well, is a lot sooner. But yeah, generally speaking, it's something we encourage. Yeah,
And what's the interest rate on a 10-year loan for?
it's a preferable rate, so it's lower rate than what we generally offer for business loans and personal loans as well. So, but it's handled
You
case
want
by
to throw
case.
a number out there, roughly? I mean, a range? You want to throw
It's,
out a
it's
range?
handled case by case.
Okay.
So it is a preferable rate. So it's, I mean, you're looking at basically between 100 150 basis points lower than our average rate for a similar loan.
Before we went on air, you even mentioned if you're considering an electric vehicle,
Hmm.
that would actually qualify
Yes.
possibly.
Yeah, correct. Hybrids, electric vehicles as well. And you know
That's-
that plays into solar as well. I mean, then you can just be your own gas station, right?
So do you have people who say they could buy the inverter, the panels, and then buy an EV car and use the EV as the battery for when you have excess electricity? Instead of putting it into a battery in the house, they just keep charging their car. Do you have anyone doing that?
That is a advanced setup. I haven't had anyone request that yet,
Okay.
but I'm sure it's coming. Yeah, because it is possible. The EV battery operates just like any home battery would. So, and there are systems out there that can do that. So as long as the battery can push out power as well via the charging port, then it is possible. Yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm. Are we seeing a big increase in EVs on the island? Full EVs? I feel like I
I'm
don't
seeing it. I'm seeing it more and more on the
Uh,
road.
mm.
You are also seeing personal loans where they're requesting vehicles. I mean, they're just more common now than they used to be.
Mhm.
And yeah,
You'll
it's-
see some BYD cars.
Correct.
Mhm.
And
exactly.
there's
yeah.
a few Teslas as well, but I'm
Yeah.
starting to see more and more of the BYDs because their price points are just very, very reasonable.
Yeah.
So let's can we go back to the hurricane the solar panels for a sec too and the mounting and that kind of stuff. I am I want to be 100% clear and clean and upfront. David Solomon of Solomon Solar did my solar at the house, right? So everybody is clear. We've worked together on this stuff. Um, I had a previous set of solar installed before we added batteries and everything else to it, or we added more panels to it. Um, the original panels were rated for wind load for 100 almost 180 mile an hour winds, and we got similar ratings for the new stuff that we added. So the one of the objections that I think you've mentioned, Emil, I know that we've heard is that we live in hurricane belt, not possible, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. These things are wind rated for the environment that we live in, and I guess the next question is, how do they stand from an insurance perspective? And I would imagine that if I'm taking a loan from WIB, you're going to want to make sure whatever you're letting me buy, letting me finance is covered.
Yeah,
by,
it's insured. Yeah, and
Yeah.
WIB also offers Be Sure, which
Mm.
also covers installations, but it's upon request. So it is
What is
possible to
Be
insure.
Sure?
Yes,
is
Be
that?
Sure. Be Sure is our insurance that WIB offers, which is a retail product for.
It's your in-house insurance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an in-house product which also covers solar, but it's upon request. So if you do have a home and you're adding solar, then upon request you can ask to include the solar installation also.
And I can also share with you that I spoke to Mark Gronveld from Atlas Risk Solution. I know he works both with a number of insurance companies, including CG United, Caribbean Alliance, and others. And he has said to me point blank, they're 100% insurable. The solar stuff. There are some rules about how they're mounted, and it's got to be done the right way. And you talked about, I think the word you used, David, was low profile.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they had very specific things that they said to us about how high the panel could be
Yeah,
from
you
the.
can't pitch over the highest point of the roof, and you need mounting hardware that's wind rated, and there were some technical specifications as well.
Did I hear Sock right that the panels are rated up to 180 miles per hour.
The mounting system that he previously had, I think it was 160, but
Okay.
somewhere around
I can put, yeah.
that range.
I actually got engineering drawings and the whole bit, and then we went to the new mounts that we used with the additional panels. Also came with similar
Correct.
type of wind ratings that went with it.
So I mean, because 180 is Cat 5, right? So
Yeah.
just to be clear, and I'm paying attention to your language, when you say the mounting system is rated to that,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean that the panels won't fly, but the panels might get damaged?
Yeah, so that's also an important point. People often ask me, so do I take the panels down during a hurricane? And I say no.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you as the customer, but in terms of cost and benefits, it's tricky because to get a team there to take everything down during a hurricane and then put everything back up, that's going to be, a good cost involved in that. And while we mount it so it won't fly away, but that doesn't guarantee it won't get hit and get damaged.
So your impact damage
Impact damage
the,
is a real threat, but the
Mhm.
cost to, let's say, replace 3 or 4 or 5 panels will likely be significantly lower than taking down, 10 or 20 panels and then putting them back up. So it's a give and take. You have to make that assessment for yourself. If you have guys or you do it
Or you're
yourself
handy,
or
yeah.
you're handy, by all means, I'm not going to stop you. But for most customers, I just say, yeah, weather the storm and then afterwards replacing a panel. Like the panel cost has come down in recent years. So yeah, that trade off is leaning more towards leave them up.
So just a silly question. Yep.
170. I just pulled up the engineering
Okay.
drawings and
170.
and the docs that
But
we
still,
got.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a silly question. I think Christmas lights, right? You have your line of Christmas lights, and one bulb goes, and the whole string sometimes goes out, right?
Yeah.
So just so I'm clear, if you have a hurricane and you have 20 panels, 2 get damaged, do the other 18 continue to function, or is it no? You need to fix the 2 because they're kind of all in a line.
Yeah, great question. And similar to Christmas lights, it's often in a string series. So, but multiple strings. So if you have 20 panels, you probably have 2 strings of 10. So then if 2 get damaged in the same string, that string won't work, but the other
Okay.
10 will work. And yeah, it depends. So as you go up in numbers, so let's say you have 30, then or 36 panels, we do 4 strings of 9, and then so we can incorporate some backup, if you will, in that, and we often do. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a little bit of a challenge because indeed after a hurricane you might imagine that a couple panels get damaged. So then you're going to be really busy after
Yeah.
hurricanes sort of and do you keep panels in stock?
No. So I operate on a order to purchase to order
Mm-hmm.
setup. That way I keep the cost low because I am trying to reach as many people as possible out there. Solar kind of has a um, image of being, super expensive and way up there and only for, a certain type of customer. I'm trying to break that stigma and bring it to more people. But I just need you to be serious about it because, yeah, taking on the smaller projects, it still takes up a lot of time. And, there's way less money involved, but I'm operating from a place of, passion to help people out. So if you're serious about it, like that lady, she said, David, I want it, and she got it. In 6 weeks, she was set up, and she's never looked back. So that's kind of the success story that I'm
So
going
from the time
after.
she ordered it to installation was 6 weeks?
Yeah, but she was lucky. She was lucky because I already had stock coming in, and so things lined up. But usually for a customer, it takes anywhere between, let's say, 8 to 10 weeks, depending on. Yeah.
I am, and listen, and no offense to David, but you could walk into a number of local businesses on this island who have solar panels for sale, right? That you could go buy. I mean, the Budget Marine, Electech, others have solar panels in stock should you have a situation where you need to replace a panel. It may not be the same quality or the exact match of what you get from your initial system, but if you have a panel go bad, you can source a solar panel locally if you have to. Um, so that's also an important thing. Like the next thing I was thinking about that I should do as a solar consumer. Maybe I have to have two or three panels just sitting in the back of the garage, right? That I'm not using, but they're spares, right? Just to have, right?
And okay, and so again, as a novice, as somebody who hasn't really delved into the specifics of this, there are all kinds of panels for sale. How do you compare the quality? I imagine you can get very cheap panels that have, I don't know what, a limited lifespan or limited wind rating, and then you can get sort of high end. How does a consumer understand what's appropriate and what's the sweet spot for investment? And even from a financing perspective, I assume you need to have sort of a minimum quality, because if you're financing it and the panels stop after 2 years, you're going to have a problem maybe collecting your financing payments. No.
Well, from the bank's perspective, what we look for is that at least it has to be a local supplier.
Okay.
So we're encouraging the local economy and the vendors locally. And secondly, you need to show that it is a green, a given green product that you're purchasing or whatnot. So
A solar panel is a solar panel.
yeah, exactly.
So how do
solar
you?
panels would definitely be easy, but sometimes when you're talking about equipment or whatnot, that it has to be clear, that has to be green. So that's when it comes to
They come with
green loan.
what's the ratings? There's a green rating system that you often see, and the name is it'll come to me.
Yeah.
But it's a logo that you see on the side of the
Oh.
battery. That I can see it in front of me, but we'll get there. It'll
Yeah.
come to me.
But how does a
Sure.
consumer
So that's
not get taken
Yeah.
and buy
Yeah,
like
that's
a
a
cheap panel?
it's a great question. So solar panels in the last few years have become a bit of a commodity, as in 95% are produced in China. They have factories that are just pumping out the cells, the individual cell, and then different companies do different tricks to optimize and get the most out of it. How do you differentiate now is between, I think it's called A tier companies and B tier. So you have like top brands that make better panels, or that they come with a longer warranty, longer higher wind load ratings, those type of stuff. And that's really where you see the differentiation taking place. So it's like in the build quality after the cells, most likely, and then small technology. A consumer would be able to do a comparison. Nowadays, we have, of course, AI. So you can literally take the model numbers of both, say, hey, can you do a side by side comparison of these two? For St. Martin, one of the most important things is the um, power temperature coefficient. Not to get too technical, but basically that says for every degree that it gets hotter, how much production am I losing on the panel? Because solar panels do not like being hot. They like
Oh.
getting radiation from the sun, but there's a difference between that. So that's why in the super hot months, people think, uh, solar must be doing great now. That's actually not the case. It's actually when it's cool but sunny that solar performs at its peak.
And aren't we basically hot here all the time?
Yeah.
So that's where that temperature coefficient comes into play. So you want to get a panel that has the lowest, so that per degree that it gets warmer above what the panel ideally wants, you lose as little power as possible. So that's an important factor that I look for, and I only buy A tier panels as well.
And that quality affects the. So do panels degrade over
Yes.
time? And
Yeah.
the amount of electricity it produces,
Yes.
so it degrades.
Yeah.
And
So sorry to
Yeah.
just for everyone's understanding. First of all, a panel, let's say a 400 watt panel, will almost never produce 400 watts. Even brand new, you put it out, it'll do somewhere like 350, 360, somewhere there. So there's already about a 80% efficiency or rating that you can expect, and that's when it's brand new. Over time, that will slowly curve down to about another 80% of that. But so, and that trajectory takes like 20 plus years. So manufacturers do offer a production warranty for the panels, but realistically, I think if you call the manufacturer in, 15 years and you say, "Hey, my panel isn't producing what you said it would," are they gonna honor that warranty? Yes or no? That's a big question mark there.
What's the typical warranty on a solar panel?
Yeah, so like 20 plus years. So
Years.
you have two. So you have the production and the just it functioning in general.
Right.
And both
They
of
give
them.
a 20-year warranty.
Yeah. Most even longer, 25,
That's
30 year.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, that's the
Batter-
A-tier companies.
Batteries are different, right? But that's just the panel, the good panels.
Yeah, correct. Batteries are different. They tend to have a shorter warranty period, but still, at least the ones I purchase are 10 years.
So Vasco, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. I know you're not a tax advisor,
Hmm.
but you're in finance. From a homeowner's perspective, is this somehow a tax deductible investment? How can I? Are there ways to sort of reduce my taxes because I'm making investments in green energy? Do you know?
I don't think personally you're able to deduct it from taxes, but you have to check with a tax advisor. But businesses can definitely expense it, and probably depreciate the asset.
But if I'm a home and I add a porch,
Mhm.
right? I come to you, I get a loan, I increase the value of my house, I add it to
Yeah,
my
no.
mortgage, that's deductible. Wouldn't this be seen in a sort of a similar
You'd
light?
have to check
A tax
tax
advisor.
advisor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
I
say
don't-
the interest, right? So the
The
interest,
interest
on
is
the loan,
definitely
yeah,
Interest
that's
deductible, yeah. But like
deductible.
it's like maintenance and stuff like that. I wouldn't see this as maintenance, which is also an expense you can deduct. But
Mhm.
On the
offhand, I wouldn't know. No.
on the business side, you could roll the asset into your core assets and then depreciate that over
Yeah, that's
time,
depreciation, yeah.
and of course your interest expense is
Deductible.
deductible. I guess the question becomes from who are my tax guys out there? Hey Marco, are you listening? Is if I borrow the money and it's not my first mortgage, but it is a home loan, is that interest deductible under local law? And I
Well, then
don't-
it wouldn't be a home loan. That would be a personal loan, and I
Right.
believe you can deduct up to 2,500 guilders
so
personally.
Per
Yeah,
year.
Yeah, per year.
Mm.
Yeah.
so
in
you're going to
interest.
get some benefit, maybe.
So you
not.
Okay.
do have deductions for personal loans and whatnot.
But that helps with your payback
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
calculations. So something to take a look at. Couple quick, because David, I know you were a candidate in politics. Have you seen other islands? I mean, in the United States, for sure, you can get tax rebates. You can even get, I think, even government subsidies sometimes as an encouragement. So forget the more developed countries in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any country that has come with a sensible policy, legislation structure to encourage the solar alternative energy development on their island?
I have to be honest with you. I've been more focused here locally on just getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to follow the trends where I can, but I can't say that I have an example of a good policy or anything that's at the forefront of my mind at this moment, that other islands are doing. I know other islands are further ahead, but that's also not often on a personal or business level, but more the energy company. For example, St. Kitts, they're doing some good stuff, and Statia as well, of course. So there's movements on a broader scale that I think we should try to emulate as much as possible.
And by that you mean that the utility companies
Correct.
are making investments in solar energy production, but as well as grid level storage.
Yes, yes,
Can you
very
explain just a
important.
little bit about what grid level storage is, and also perhaps touch on net metering? St.
Yeah,
Martin does not have net metering,
yeah,
and again, that would change the financial picture quite a bit. So perhaps you
yeah.
guys could explain a little bit about that.
So for the listeners to understand, net metering is when you deliver back into the grid. So your solar system at home or at the business puts energy back into the grid, so gives it to GB, and then GB actually buys it off of you. And then there's many different setups there in terms of, are they gonna go one for one? Do they just do a debit credit type setup? Do they buy it back for less than and then they sell it back to you later? There are all types of setups there, which can be beneficial for GB as well. You can create win-win setups with doing that. But anyway, so that's net metering. One downside of net metering is that you do need to stabilize your grid, and because let's say everybody's net metering on the island, solar has taken off, and then a big cloud passes over St. Martin, and then all of a sudden the production just plummets. You need something in between there to be able to stabilize the voltage, stabilize the grid. Otherwise, we'll be having all types of stability issues. That's where battery storage, grid level battery storage systems come into play.
So it's a huge battery.
Huge battery, often battery parks, that can jump in when solar production is, higher, lower, etc. And also, it captures any excess power, of course, as well. So definitely that would be my recommendation, because there have been other islands that really focus on grid tied with net metering, and then they experience more blackouts because of that grid stability issue. So any net metering or any plans to implement that should be paired with battery storage as well.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you just say, oh, a big cloud comes over and things plummet.
Yeah.
So I'm looking out the window right now. I would describe what we see outside as pretty overcast, right?
Yeah, correct.
Does that mean solar comes to a screeching halt, that we're not doing anything?
No. So even right now, the production should be somewhere. I mean, you can check, but
I'm actually, I asked the question. I don't ever ask a question I don't know the answer to, right? But I'm actually just looking at the house right now,
yeah,
and the house is running 100% off the roof, and I'm still charging the battery,
yeah,
and I would call that pretty overcast at the
yeah.
moment.
So right now it's a moment where there's clouds, or maybe it's dust, or I'm not too sure what it is, but there's still solar radiance reaching our rooftops. So the system still generates, still produces. It's really when you get those thick gray rain clouds that production really halts. But fortunately for us, that's it's intermittent here, so it's not like we get weeks of darkness at a time. For reference, I have a brother-in-law in the Netherlands, and he has a system of about, I would say, like, let's call it 10 panels, something like that. And he said, "Yeah, I'm generating 900 kilowatts per year." I was like,
Huh?
I do that in 1 month.
Right.
We get
Wow.
so much sun over here, so much. It's free power. So we tapping into that, and now thanks to the WIB as well, offering the loan. I really hope that people take up the opportunity, and not just because I'm in the business. It's really also a great feeling to have, not just the savings but also the energy security in this modern world where we're living in.
So can you, again, for our listeners and in layman terms, can you say, look, if you meet criteria A, B, C, you should talk to the bank about financing and talk to a supplier installer to investigate a possible installation? Can you say, look, if you hit this profile, you're in the sweet spot to consider a solar installation?
Yeah. So I would say really anyone that is paying above 500 guilders a month,
Mm.
you should definitely be looking into it. And even under there, there's a subset where, it might not be, or the return on investment time might be a little longer, but the peace of mind to have, your backup in a world where
Why'd you look at me?
We call it the FU factor, not the peace of mind factor.
Yeah.
Just unplugging
Fun.
from
The
the
fun
grid,
factor.
right?
Yeah.
Unplugging from the grid has a certain satisfaction to it.
yeah, correct. But and also, with the oil prices going wherever they're going, we don't know the future, right? So it's really a satisfying feeling to know, okay, no matter what, I at least have something. I
Right.
at least have something, and that is worth a lot. At least to me it is, and to, I think, a lot of people it is. So, but if you're over the 500 guilder mark per month, then definitely you should be taking a look and at least inquiring by the bank. I don't know the exact process, etc., but I would assume you get a breakdown after, once you visit it, and then you can bring that breakdown to a solar supplier, and any good solar supplier would be able to say, okay, this is what it'll cost and this is what it'll save you. And I have done that calculation before, and there are several cases where you would take the loan, but your savings would be greater than the amount you need to pay back. So you're getting a system and you're paying less per month.
Okay. So your electric bill's over 500 guilders.
Yes.
What if you don't own your home? Suppose you rent your home. Does this make sense?
Then you really, yeah, then you have to have that discussion with your landlord and see if they're willing to, facilitate that. My previous house I was renting, and my landlord said, okay, you could put it up, just take it down when you go. And so I did that.
Okay, so the fact that you don't own your home doesn't mean it doesn't make sense for you, as long as you have an agreement with your landlord.
Correct.
Okay.
I give you for example, like I think there's 12 panels on the roof here.
Oh, and you
there's-
rent here.
and
yeah.
I'm a tenant here, and
Right.
and
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suppose suppose I have a good amount of land, but for whatever, my roof is too small, too old. Do things like covered parking or just put solar panels on the ground in the yard? I mean, is that feasible? Does that make financial sense?
Yes, there are ground mount solutions and carports. I tend to lean more towards the carport. Just you have a win-win. You can park your car in the shade as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's higher off the ground, because one thing you do not want is any type of shading on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Any type of shading can bring down the production of the entire string, like we were talking about earlier, so the entire set of panels. So that's why I avoid the ground mount option unless you have like an open field. But yeah, how many people have
not too
that on
many.
St. Martin?
Right.
Yeah, so higher up in that sense is preferable.
And does the orientation of your house matter?
Yeah, absolutely. Ideally, we're facing south, so towards Saba. That's the best position for the panels all year round. But let me think. East and west also works. I think north is the one we try to avoid.
that's my only part of my roof that we have not yet covered.
Okay.
Is north.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So your bill is over 500 guilders.
Yeah.
Um,
You're credit worthy.
You're
I would
credit
say.
worthy.
That's
Credit for the
important
bank,
one.
definitely. Yeah.
And how to say I'm interested in maybe my GB bill is more than 500 guilders a month. I want to make the investment. The landlord says yes. Um, what does a small starter system? Maybe I burn 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. I don't know. What's a small starter system that would? What's it cost me to do that? About.
Yeah, yeah, no. People often ask me, they sometimes want to start with just putting an AC on solar, for example. And I I almost advise against that and tell them if you invest just a bit more, then you can put most of your house on solar already. And that difference is yeah, it's, let's say it's just the AC would cost you 5,500, and then the whole house plus your AC 7,000. For example,
Mhm.
that's a ballpark figure, base minimum system, you know,
$7,000 dollars. Okay, just so
dollars.
we're on the same.
Yeah. So making that jump, because I I know, having gone through the solar journey myself, you're going through it, others as well, it's addictive. And so once you start, you're going to want more and more, and it's almost never enough. So I really encourage customers to say, okay, don't just do the AC, save up just a little more. And now, and that's where I'm very happy that there's a financing option available as well. Even if it's just to bridge that gap, you might already have, let's say, 5K, and I tell you, hey, start with seven, but you don't have the seven. Well, go for the two. Potentially
Borrow two.
borrow
Borrow,
two.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the process? Say they've listening,
Mhm.
hey, this sounds like me. How do I talk to Vasco? How do I make this
Yeah,
happen?
so you can go to our website.
Uh,
That's www.wib-bank.net,
uh,
and you can go search for Green Loan, and then you can apply online. You can also send an email to contact@wib-bank.net, where we will receive your applicant and then discuss with you what we basically need. And it's pretty straightforward, like any loan. Like a personal loan, you would need 2 salary slips. You would need the invoice of what it is, what system you're buying. It would obviously need to be a green loan, solar, battery, and that kind of thing. For businesses, you would need to be credit worthy as well. So you would need to show that you have adequate repayment ability. And obviously, if you have the case where you save more than you pay in the loan, then for us, it's really a no-brainer, and that's what we want to encourage.
and what's the turnaround time? Let's say I apply. How fast do
Typically,
these
it's
spin?
10 working days. If
Oh.
we have all the information, then it's typically within 10 working days.
So, and do you have a list of approved suppliers, installers? Because I imagine that matters to you, right?
Well, we're targeting more local vendors. I mean, such as David and others on the island. So it's not anyone specific, but you
So
can
could
choose your
somebody
supplier.
come to the bank and say, "Look, could you share with us a list of people that you've worked with that you're comfortable working with?" And then they could go through those.
No, we would prefer to recommend them to look in the market to see what
Okay.
who they prefer and whatnot. Because I can't recommend really anybody,
Okay.
but we would want them to search for their own and do their own research as well.
So then to David, then how would you tell somebody who's looking for an installer? I guess you would, number one, look at track record. Where have you installed already? Get testimonials from the people where you've installed. What other things could somebody who's considering a solar system look at when they're evaluating different suppliers and installers?
Yeah, good question.
How do I be a smart consumer?
Yeah, I think because there's a boom in the market, I've actually had customers come to me because other installers simply didn't want to take on the job, and I was very surprised by that. But yeah, if you have massive projects running, then the likelihood that you go to and assist a smaller customer is less likely. So um, I think communication. So as you reach out, how quickly do you hear back? What information are they providing?
Yeah.
How detailed are they in their quoting as well? I give a very detailed quote, just because I don't have anything to hide. And
And I think you should be an established business, right? I mean, I imagine there's people
oh
here
yeah,
sort of
that,
selling them out of the back of their truck,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
So,
Yeah, it is a requirement on our end as well. It should be a vendor locally, so it's not something that you can order abroad by yourself, but someone that you have to have
okay, that's
locally.
good. So I can't go on Amazon and go pick a
Exactly.
package and you're going to finance it. It needs to be a local supplier and installer.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
And that's just the right thing to do, right? That's
Yeah, we
ah,
encourage local economy, so yeah.
well, John, I think we learned a whole bunch today. if folks want to reach out at the bank, once again, is the best way to get in touch is.
You can go via our website,
Mhm.
so www.wib-bank.net,
Mhm.
search for Green Loan, or send us an email at contact@wib-bank.net.
Perfect. And David, if folks would like to reach out to you, what is the best way to reach you at Solomon Solar Services?
Yeah, so the website is in the works. I would say via Facebook, the page Solomon Solar Services, or yeah, I'm always one person away from reaching me, so people know how to find me if when they're serious.
Facebook.
Yeah,
Facebook's perfect.
yeah.
Always, gentlemen, I learned a whole bunch today, and I hope our listeners did as well. It feels daunting as you start to think about it, but it's really not once you begin the journey.
Let me. It's just boggling my mind. I see some of these big supermarkets, wholesalers. They have huge flat roofs, and I don't see them all solared up. Any reason why? I mean, they have coolers, refrigerators, freezers. I mean, their draw, and it's mostly in the day, so they could.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't understand why they're not making these investments. Do you?
I I think it has to do with the upfront payment. I think that plays a role. But slowly but surely they're waking up. They're waking up.
So Vasco, indeed, then, if a big business wants to make the investment, I know you have your green loan,
Yep.
but if they said, look, this we bring a business plan to you, this is going to bring down our operational costs, it makes financial sense, can they still approach the bank
Of
for a
course,
loan?
yes, most
Okay,
definitely.
so even though it doesn't fit in the 50,000 guilders,
Well, the 50,000 is the 100% portion. That's what people like
Okay.
to hear. That's when we do 100. But obviously, we can finance above that. But then you would need to have an input requirement, you know. But generally speaking, yes, and we have done them in the past. Right? And it is, to your point, it is coming more and more. There are more people looking at that investment, and it's mostly because of the installation costs. But yes, we are willing to finance that. Yes.
okay.
This is I had somebody reach out to me yesterday at a Rotary Club lunch meeting, and they knew we were going to talk about this today, and they said, "Who do I talk to?" I said, "Listen, tomorrow we'll get you connected." And and I could think of a couple of big businesses in our around us where if you look up, you look at their roof, they have pretty large solar arrays. Go look at Budget Marine.
Yeah, budget does.
Budget has and even look at Motor World right over here. Budget is a customer. Motor World is a customer every now and then, but Motor World has a huge solar array on their roof, as does Budget. And
But like in particular, some of these supermarkets,
you would think, yeah.
you must look at these big flat spaces on the roof and just drool.
How many panels can we fit there?
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, it's coming.
And then I had to I just thought of this now. When I was in Connecticut, if I tell you the town Orange, Connecticut, Emil will know where I'm talking about. And it's a lot of farmland, and there's a private farm that's there, one of the treat farms, and and I hadn't been there since like last October, November, and I drove up there, and one of the farms, one of the fields, is just filled with solar panels now, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And they don't get anywhere near, that far north, the amount of daylight that we get here. And I did a little digging, and I found out that it was actually the public utility that actually put that field in. They're leasing the land from the family, and they are now using that for grid level production, and they actually have battery storage. Bravo.
Yeah.
So it's
Like we always say, you don't need to be smart anymore. We just need to figure out who's done
just
it well and
copy paste.
Yeah, correct.
Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming in this
Very
morning. I hope folks enjoyed this morning. I'll tell you this, just so full transparency, David did my solar system. I think we're just in the process of adding a fourth battery. I'll have about a 4.5-year payback with the addition of the fourth battery. On 10 years on the batteries is the estimated life, and 20 years on the panel. So to me, it feels like a good deal all the way around. So thank you. And I know you've dabbled as well, Vasco, with solar at home. What's been your personal experience with solar?
Well, initially, it's my brother who was telling me about stroller like last year, and yeah, I was just thinking like, yeah, yeah, I had this fear, basically, pretty much what David was explaining. But since I have it, I'm like, wow, it's really. I mean, I look a lot at investments, and if you're looking at managing expenses, then this is a really good thing to look at, definitely.
It kind of hits you
Yeah,
immediately. You feel it. You
yeah.
really feel it. And
And it's
yes,
fun too, because of the monitoring. Both of us are like looking at what
addic-
we're making
addictive.
because of the sun. It's
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 addictive.
crazy. Yeah.
Addictive. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Emil,
Yeah.
we gotta get you we're gonna have to you have a lot of flat roof up by you, don't
I
you?
have some.
Okay,
Yes.
we gotta get him on board. We gotta get him on board. Oh, never a dull moment. I'm way late. It's 8 minutes after the hour of 10 o'clock. Gentlemen, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thanks
Please
for
come
having us.
please come back again. Same Art Insights news that matters to you with Emil Lee every week. We're an hour later or so this week, but all good stuff. Let's see if we can get caught up. It is 10:09 right here in the Northeast Caribbean.